Good afternoon. It's Thursday, March 7th, 2013, and I'd like to welcome everyone to our live Ask the Analysts webcast today. We've invited two grain experts to provide their outlook ahead of tomorrow's USDA crop production and WASDE reports. My name is Chris Grams. I'll be moderating the session today. And before I introduce our experts, I want to remind everyone who's joining us live online that you can submit questions to our panelists, and we'll be asking those questions later on in the session. Look at the lower right-hand box on your screen. You should see a spot where you can submit questions. So please go ahead and start entering those questions now. Also want to just note that this panel discussion will be archived on our CME Group TV YouTube channel later on this afternoon, and that is www.youtube.com/CME Group TV. At this point, I want to very briefly introduce our experts and then get to the meat of our discussion. To my immediate left is Joe Vaclavik. He's the president and founder of Standard Grain, Inc. He's a graduate of University of Illinois with a degree in agribusiness, farm, and financial management. Joe has been featured in news outlets such as CNBC, Bloomberg, Dow Jones, Reuters, the U.S. Farm Report, Will Radio, and the Wall Street Journal. Mr. Vaclavik personally authors Standard Grain's market commentary every morning. He can be heard every morning at 7:50 on KFRM radio in Kansas and Oklahoma, and is also a regular guest on Will Radio in Illinois. Jack Scoville is sitting to his left. He is the vice president and futures market analyst with the Price Futures Group. He specializes in grains, softs, rice, oilseeds, and tropical products such as coffee and sugar. Jack began working in the futures industry over 30 years ago and spent 10 years working on the floor of the Chicago Board of Trade in various roles. He offers brokerage services to an international clientele of agricultural producers, processors, exporters, and other professional traders. Jack has been a broker off the floor since then and has been with the Price Futures Group since it was established in 1988. So without any further ado, I want to hand the mic over to our experts to provide us with some perspective on what we may see tomorrow in the USDA reports. Joe, can I ask you to start for us?
Yes, thank you. So tomorrow's report, we've got two real big pieces of information. The first one that we're going to look at is old crop carryout for corn, soybeans, and wheat. This is essentially supplies on hand now after this harvest this past fall. So this is for the 12-13 crop year. We're really not looking ahead very much to the 13-14 crop year as of yet. The second major piece of information is going to be South American production estimates, in particular Brazilian corn, Brazilian soybeans, Argentina corn, Argentina soybeans. Now, going back to the old crop ending stocks here domestically, we look for corn supplies to grow by anywhere from 20 to 25 million bushels, according to the average trade guess. The main reason for the supposed or expected growth in corn carryout is going to be mainly due to decrease in export demand in corn. Corn exports have been very, very soft. As a matter of fact, this morning corn exports came in at a 27-week low. So many traders are expecting that the USDA is going to ratchet down their estimate for corn exports. Soybeans, we're looking for a neutral to maybe slightly friendly report here. February carryout was 125 million bushels. We're looking for a number to come in closer to 120 to 122 tomorrow morning. Soybean export demand, on the other hand, has just been off the charts. Very, very good. We are now at 95 or 96% of projected sales for beans versus 85% in normal crop year. So we're well ahead of schedule here. We only need to average 61,000 metric tons a week for the rest of the marketing year in beans to match USDA projections. So the bean sales are just off the charts. Been some logistics issues in Brazil, despite the fact that they're looking at a record crop down there. Getting it out of the country has been kind of an issue, and I think that's shifted some demand back to the U.S. As far as wheat is concerned, we do look for the wheat carryout to grow anywhere from 20 to 25 million bushels tomorrow. There's a number of different reasons why traders are expecting that. I personally don't see a report this bearish coming out on the wheat. I think that given the fact that it's so competitively priced with corn, especially in nearby contracts, we could actually see this demand kind of level off and maybe even increase over the next couple of months. The Brazilian numbers, dry weather in Argentina has been a problem. We're looking for the Argentina corn number and the Argentina soybean number to go lower. We're looking for the Brazilian numbers to stay unchanged from February for the most part.
Thanks, Joe. I'm going to hand it over to Jack for his perspective. Jack?
Well, I guess I'll concentrate a little bit more on what we see going on down in South America because Joe covered pretty well what the domestic estimates are going to be. I'll just add to the domestic estimates, the corn, wheat, and soybeans. I can see the soybean demand being ratcheted up, but it's a question of how much USDA can actually do to ratchet it up. We do know about the strong demand, but USDA has to show some type of pipeline stocks after all. So exactly whether they do that this time or whether they do any big modifications to any of these domestic estimates this time around is kind of open to question. We do have a quarterly stocks report coming out at the end of the month, and USDA, especially for domestic demand estimates, may wish to wait and see exactly what our supplies are on hand through the quarterly stocks estimates before making any real big changes. So with that in mind, I could see corn and wheat being a little bit more stable. I realize that the corn export demand has been really pretty poor, but the domestic demand is supposed to be holding pretty steady, and the ethanol demand should start to come back a little bit here after being down over the last couple of months. Profitability seems to be getting a little bit better over there, so there's a chance that we could see USDA hold to a more unchanged type of corn ending stocks estimate instead of increasing it, or at least increase it maybe a little less than the trade expectations. And I would agree with Joe. I don't really see the reason for USDA to make a whole lot of changes in the wheat ending stocks estimates. Just because I think the demand especially on the domestic side, has been a little better than people expected, and the export demand is starting to pick up. It's been steadily increasing, and USDA may feel comfortable with leaving those numbers alone. Down in Brazil and Argentina, I think that's going to be very interesting to see exactly what they do. I see no real reason for them to make any big changes with the Brazil corn and soybean estimates. I've heard two different schools on exactly how the yields are coming out of the ground, especially for soybeans out of Brazil. Some are claiming that the yield and the production really hasn't been that good. My best sources on the ground tell me that the yield and the production, though, has been every bit as good as advertised, and perhaps even a little bigger. So I would imagine the USDA has no real reason to trim the soybean estimate very much. Looks like 83 to 84 million tons is probably a pretty good estimate. We'll also be having a CONAB estimate coming out, where they'll say what they think for Brazilian soybeans productions. They've been pretty high the last couple of months, and given the yield and the production that I've heard out of Mato Grosso and Paraná State, they probably have no real reason to change. I think the corn estimate for Argentina could come down closer to 25 million tons, not a real dramatic change. I don't know that they'll really drop it much below that. There's been some talk that the production has come in a little bit below that, but there's been some very timely rains lately that are going to help finish the crop, and it could be that closer to 25 million tons is about where we end up. The soybean estimate could drop 1 million tons in Argentina. The consensus seems to be pretty close to 50 million tons, just a little bit either side of 50 million tons seems to be the consensus estimate when you talk to traders down in South America. So I could see that estimate dropping as well. Back to the soybeans a little bit. We've seen some really, really incredible soybean sales here over the last few weeks. Highlighted, I guess, by Monday's huge sales of old and new crop. Whether USDA wants to do anything and recognize those or leave them alone is, I think, an open question. I think we all know that a lot of those sales could get canceled once the soybeans start to flow from Brazil. So the big question is probably going to be in their minds, when will those beans actually start to flow? And I'm not real sure that we really have a super good indication of when that should happen. But this is traditionally the month when the big export season kicks off, so hopefully it'll be pretty soon.